Welcome to another edition of the Plus One interview on After the Whistle. I'm here. Man, she's all over the place. She's a busy lady. She's a busy lady. She's a reporter. She's a host. There's a lot of things on her resume, on her plate. I got Miss Renee Washington. How are you doing?
I am great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
No problem, no problem. Thanks for coming on. Just for the audience, a disclaimer, we will be back doing a full show every week at some point in like the next couple weeks, but right now we're still on hiatus. So we're gonna talk some NBA postseason has started.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there's a game happening right now between the Nuggets and the Jazz, which is tied at 59. This playoffs, first of all, this whole bubble, the play-in game that happened over the weekend, I think the NBA could kind of take that into the foreseeable future because as a fan, I enjoyed the play-in game because it was very competitive. You saw both teams wanted it, and it would have been nice to see if Portland won, so they kind of have another do or die game. But just overall, it was a great product.
Yeah. Something that I think stood out is just the fact that with the NBA restart, they've been doing a lot of things right, and this is one of them. They've been finding ways to really increase the intensity and really bring that playoff atmosphere, regardless with that, fans, no fans, virtual fans, real fans.
Yeah.
It still has been exciting to watch. And the play-in game between Portland and Memphis was just another result of that, and I think that something that I also do go back to is I don't know how a play-in game would work in the course of a normal season. You play so many games if you have a regular 82-game season and you don't have a pause like we did this year. So a play-in game could make the season in itself just even tougher for that reason. But I honestly like it. If you have a chance to show that you deserve to be in the playoffs, like Memphis kind of came in feeling a little upset that they didn't get that definite number 8 spot, and why not? No, you got to show it. If you're right there on the bubble, you didn't earn your way just yet. You got to have to earn your way in. And one thing is, for most 7 or 8 seeds, they're 1 and out anyways. You rarely see them win that first round. So it kind of gives them a chance to feel like they're in the postseason, getting that excitement of winning a series before getting knocked out, similar to what the NCAA does with March Madness with their playing games. So I'm all for it. Hey, more basketball, more excitement and intensity, more do or die games. Why not have them?
Yeah, I think someone threw it out on Twitter. Like they suggested maybe like in the regular season, just the 8 and 9 or 7, 8 and 9 seeds play it out, which will be interesting because if you look at it in the Western Conference, the past few years, it's like the 7 through 8, they're almost similar. They almost finish with similar records. It's like they'll 8th seed will be 1 game back. The 9th seed will be like 2 games back. So those those teams in the 7, 8, 9 slot are always tight. So I could see a situation like that where they
have that and going. I think if they're I think there should be parameters. It shouldn't be like a definite situation. I think if anybody's within like 2 or 3, I would even say maybe 3 at the most, but definitely 1 game back. Why not? You finish that close in the course of a season, give them something else to play for and to have another chance to extend their season. I'm all for it. I think it'd be something to look into, and we'll see. I feel like it might stick around since it's gotten a lot of hype with the NBA restart so far.
Yeah, definitely. And a player that has really used this bubble to elevate his game has been Damian Lillard. I believe we've been talking about him for basically all 8 games, since they had to basically win out. And he put together another strong performance in the play-in game. And now they got to play the Lakers. But his play in the last 3 games, it's just what was disappointing is Portland was never healthy this season. This is I just realized that they were never healthy. They never had their full team, or somebody would come back, somebody else would get hurt. So Portland we were sliding with them because of the injuries, because if they probably were healthy, they probably would have been a higher seed, maybe in like the 4, 5, 6 range. But we see with the healthy team, they pose a threat to the Lakers. I'm not going to say they'll win the series, but they pose a difficult matchup with the Lakers.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the toughest part is in the West, just how competitive it is. I mean, you look at the top 8, but even the top 10 or 11, the Suns, the Grizzlies, the Spurs, the Pelicans they had a chance to have a healthy Zion. You really have an interchangeable group that could be into the playoffs. So for the Trailblazers not having a healthy full season, it did hurt them. But I think that Damian Lillard has been playing incredible. He's been playing out of his mind. You look at his numbers I mean, he's shooting just under 50% from the three and from the field. He's averaged over 37 points per game in the course of the seeding games. I mean, it's just insane to see how much he continues to grow and still surprises people. Like, I feel like a lot of people, we're all fans of Dame. We've all seen him hit clutch game winners and step up in big moments. But it's like, it feels like every time you think you've got him figured out, he elevates his game to another level. And in the seeding games, just watching how he was a walking bucket. I mean, he started off as someone that maybe we weren't talking about as much. It was more focused on TJ Warren and Devin Booker. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, Dame Dollar's here. It's Dame time. And he put his name out there like, don't forget about me. And here he's been talking junk. It's just been fun to see. I mean, he plays exciting basketball. And the way he just carries Portland at times, he has a great team around him too with Melo, Nurkic, CJ McCollum, but he really is able to turn that corner and take that step to lead the team when needed. And it's been fun to watch, but I do think this is it for the Trailblazers. I'm a Lakers fan. This is LA. LA is going to win. I honestly think it's going to be a competitive series. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination, but I also am happy about that because I think Memphis would have been a much easier series for the Lakers. And having had such a rocky start to the seeding games, and we didn't see LeBron and Anthony Davis, and we didn't see them play as much and as consistently as liked. So having a competitive first round will be good to prepare them for the next round in the playoff run. So I'm excited for. I think it's going to be like a 6-game series, hopefully not a 7.
Yeah,
hopefully and what it's done in 5 or 6.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody about this. The problem that Portland poses for the Lakers is they have 3 7-footers that they can throw at Anthony Davis. That's, when you got when you got 3 that you could just throw at their best player, it might not slow him down, but it'll take its toll on him at some point because throwing different bodies at him, because Anthony Davis, we've all seen he's been the key to the Lakers. Him and LeBron have been the keys, but the way Anthony Davis has played this season, he's been the key figure. And when he's dominating in the post and then he takes you out on the perimeter, he's like, most teams don't have guys that could cover him, but these guys, they could throw 3 different bodies at him at different times of the game, which could kind of make it a little more balanced. And the issue with the Lakers is their guard play, is the backcourt. Is Portland's backcourt has a big advantage over the Lakers backcourt in Gary Trent, the way he's been playing. This will be his first playoffs. Luckily for him, it's in Orlando. It's not it's not the home court advantage. It's in a bubble. So the Lakers slowing down the Portland guards is going to be key in this matchup.
Yeah, I think defensively that is where we're going to see the mismatch. I just don't think that Portland has the ability. I think it's going to be a shootout, but it's going to come down to, in those big moments down the stretch, can Portland get a stop? Now, I don't think they have that capability, especially in matching up with LeBron.
From what we've seen.
Yeah, I think that is their Achilles heel. I mean, that's really what separates them from being an even better team. So I think that's where the Lakers will have the upper hand in this series. Essentially, you don't have anybody that matches up with LeBron and AD, whereas for the Lakers, they do have players that can match up with. You're not going to stop Damian Lillard, of course, but if you can equalize and slow down, you keep Melo, Nurkic, CJ McCollum, you keep them kind of leveled off, you're winning that game. So I definitely think that the series, and if this was just a 1 game, that's one thing, but we're talking best of 7, it's the Lakers.
Yeah.
And
Carmelo
we're going to see playoff LeBron. Sorry.
We're going to see 0 Doc 30.
Yeah, we're going to see playoff LeBron, which is a whole different level in itself. But go ahead.
Yeah, another interesting matchup here is LeBron and Carmelo Anthony. Year 17, this is the first time these two are going to play against each other. Well, second time they're going to play against each other in the playoff season. I believe they played against each other when LeBron was in Miami. But now they're both on the West Coast, year 17. This is kind of an intriguing matchup, especially a lot of people thought Melo was washed. A lot of people thought Melo was done, but he's found his spot with Portland. They're leaving him open in the corners. He can still make open shots. When they need him to play bully basketball, he can still do that. So this is going to be a good matchup.
Yeah, and I'm excited for Melo. I think that he's someone that has to see the changes in his career and the ups and downs. Of course, I do not like the fact that he cheated on Lala, but that's an off-court issue in itself. But him as a basketball player, I don't condone cheating, but him as a basketball player, I will say, he deserves this. The situation in New York was such a mess. It was just painful to watch him in his prime years dealing with that foolishness in an organization he just didn't fit in with. He didn't fit in with the triangle offense. He didn't fit in with any, it was just one year after the other, and then injuries and all these setbacks. And to see him now be someone that is knocking down big shots, stepping up in big moments, a part of a team that's making it to the playoffs, and at least being able to just play. And that's all you want as players. You hate to see any guy or female in women's sports that has their career put on hold or set back because of issues that are beyond them. Yeah. If you're just not good enough, that's one thing. But for him being as talented as he was, especially to see the fact that he was just at some parts of his career a non-factor, and then some parts you'd see Hoodie Mello where he'd be like dropping doubles and just able to do whatever he wanted. It was just so hard to watch. So for that reason alone, I'm happy for him. And of course, him and LeBron have a great friendship. They're banana boat buddies. And this is a chance to play against your friend, playing in the first round. So I'm sure we'll see some like fun moments of that, but also some intense where you're kind of battling against your brother in a sense to send him home.
Yeah, as you said, I think this will go 6 games. It'll be a strong 6, but I will be very surprised if Portland wins this series. And I mean, I will be
devastated.
I will be surprised. The other interesting matchup in the Western Conference is the Rockets and OKC Thunder. And I didn't expect to see OKC in the postseason. I didn't expect them to have the season they've had, but here we are. Chris Paul had a stellar season. Houston had once again put together a great season. James Harden, 3rd year in a row, leading the league in scoring. But they will be without Russell Westbrook, and that puts them at a major disadvantage.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing with the Rockets Thunder series. It's really a lot dependent on what Russell Westbrook is able to do, if anything. I know that he's kind of day-to-day, and this quad injury seems to be something that we knew was going to have him out for the start of this first series, but you're playing OKC. There might not be a next series. So I think for that reason alone, we're going to see Russell Westbrook possibly either return back too soon or just not return at all. But, I mean, it's a tough series because, as you mentioned, OKC is a team that many were not expecting to do this well. Once you have this group without Russell Westbrook, CP3 has shown that he still is a player that's an all-star top player in the league. And then you see the supporting cast around him that's really been able to step up. And I think that OKC just plays with this little bit of a swag to them, trying to prove, we are still a top team. We don't count us out. You still have Steven Adams. You still have Dennis Schroeder. Gilgeous-Alexander's been playing out of his mind. Hamidou Diallo, like they have a lot of players and pieces there that we're seeing them consistently be a top team in the West, which has surprised many people. But that's what makes this matchup so difficult, because for James Harden, it's going to be a lot on him. And he's another one that has been playing exceptionally well in the bubble. His numbers are out of this world. I think the bubble actually definitely, it works in his favor. This is like what James Harden 101.
Yeah.
No fans. It's kind of like you're playing pickup or you're playing in the park, and that is James Harden's MO. And so I think he's excelling, but can they consistently, now that it's playoff time, bring that? And for the Rockets, we've seen them struggle in the postseason. They're a team that I feel like has underperformed and underachieved in that sense. So this is the year that they could at least be a competitor for winning the West, but we don't even know if they'll get past the first round, especially if Russell Westbrook is not able to play. So I think there's a lot that we're just not sure on in here, because it really depends on if Russ is a go or not. I know the Rockets without him, don't get me wrong, still very strong team. They were strong before he got there, still a top team, but to get over this hump, and there's like a rivalry there as well. So it's not even just about talent. It's about so much more in this Rockets Thunder matchup that you need Russell Westbrook to be able at least like a 75%, if nothing else.
Because, you take Westbrook out the equation, who else, James Harden is a playmaker, but who else is a playmaker on that team? Who else, you could tell James Harden, get the ball out of James Harden's hand and create their own shot or create shot for others. They really don't have a third option that can do that for them. It's most majority of their guys, they get their offense from the creation of James Harden and Russell Westbrook. So now it's like, who's going to be that guy when teams are doubling James Harden and getting the ball out of his hand? Who's the person that's going to step up? I mean, Ben McLemore, Jeff Green, who's a guy, Austin Rivers. I don't know. Though these are guys that are inconsistent up and down. So yeah, they got some things to figure out with how they're going to do this, because if James Harden puts up 50 and nobody else is doing anything, it's just gonna be a high score. It's just gonna be James Harden's show, and they're just gonna lose because you can't.
Which is what we've seen from the Rockets a lot of times in the playoffs. They usually do well throughout the regular season. James Harden's an MVP candidate, and then come postseason, we don't know which Rockets team we're gonna get. I mean, looking at players like PJ Tucker, Jeff Green, Robert Covington, you mentioned Austin Rivers. These are players that have the ability to score. Yeah, they can knock down shots. They can be threats from the perimeter. That Jeff Green can give you some presence in the paint, but can they do that every night? And that's what we don't know. So with Russell Westbrook being there, you at least know, okay, you're going to have those two consistently able to get you 25, 30 points, a double-double, triple-double, whatever it may be, whatever it takes. But without him, it goes back to the Rockets being what the Rockets were in the past, the James Harden show. And that's the difference that they need now this postseason to be able to get over that hump. If you want to get to the Western Conference Finals, they're going to need both of them there and healthy and able to play. And I just don't know what Russell Westbrook is going to look like. But I'm 90% sure, and I'm not going to say 99 or 100, but 90% sure we'll see Russell Westbrook back, if not game 1 or 2.
Game 3.
I don't see him missing. You need to be back by game 2 is my thought. Yeah. Maybe you lose game 1. If you go down 2-0, it's hard to come back from that against OKC. So I see him, depending on what happens in game 1, trying to get back game 2. And if not by game 2, definitely by game 3, or else that's it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I think it'll be game 3. The good thing for him, they've got enough. He's gotten enough rest to heal that. So we'll most likely see him in game 3. Now, the other favorite in the West is the Los Angeles Clippers, a team that hasn't played their entire roster together the entire season. I think I saw somewhere they only had their full roster 12 times this entire season. And now Montrezl Harrell is coming back, Patrick Beverley back, but he's still, not 100%. Lou Williams back. This is an interesting team, as they're also playing another interesting team, the Dallas Mavericks, who can score a lot, but they can't really stop anybody on the defense, man.
Yeah, this is insane to me that this is a 2-7 matchup, because I just cannot wrap my head around how good the Mavericks are at a number 7 seed. And the way this is another series. There are a few across the East and the West that I am excited to watch, and this is one of them, because this is easily a 6-game series, if not 7. I don't think that the Clippers are going to come in and just roll over the Mavericks. I think that the way that Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis are playing, they can score, they can get to the basket, they can knock down shots, they've got size, they can defend. I do think it depends on the Clippers. Will Patrick Beverley be able to play, and how will he look? He's someone that just frustrates the crap out of other teams. He's one of those dogs that just kind of talks junk. He gets into you. He's physical. He does all the dirty work. So I think it's going to be a lot dependent on, you talk about Montrezl Harrell, Patrick Beverley. Will they be able to play? We don't know. So for the Clippers specifically, with Kawhi and Paul George, you know what you're going to get from them. But with all these teams, much like you were just talking about with the Rockets, the difference between a championship team and just a playoff contender is the role players at this point. Yeah. Most of these teams that we're talking about have 2 all-stars, and unfortunately for the Rockets, one of them is not really healthy right now. Yeah. But looking at the Clippers, you've got 2 healthy all-stars. So what are your supporting cast going to do? How are they going to step into this role? Because that is where the Clippers have more talent than the Mavericks, of course, if you look player to player, roster to roster. But I honestly do not want to count out Luka Doncic. I know people are saying that they think this could be an upset, that Dallas can beat the Clippers. And the way that Luka's playing, just him specifically, I don't know. I feel like we're going to see some incredible growth over these next couple games. Also, or they're going to just bully the crap out of him, and he's going to look like a second year player. But I don't imagine that fully happening.
Also, we gotta give a lot of props to Kristaps Porzingis. He's been playing really well in this bubble. I'll just give you some of his numbers. He had a 30.8 rebound game, 22.7 rebound game, 30.9 rebound game, 26.11 rebound game, 36.6 rebound game. So if Luka can, get around that 20, 25 points, give you that, grab 10 rebounds, this series will be a lot more. This series might go longer than people think, because one thing with the Clippers, they don't have size to really contend with a guy like Luka. Not Luka, I mean Kristaps. If Kristaps decides he's gonna play back to the basket basketball, and they really don't have a guy that can stop him from getting whatever he wants in the paint, because he is 7'3". He can shoot a fadeaway. He can take you off the dribble. I mean, Zubac can't cover him. Paul George is too small. I mean, maybe he could stick with him, but he can still get his shot over them. So Kristaps is going to be the key, and also Tim Hardaway Jr. I think he's going to be another key, because he's going to get a lot of open looks from the penetration of Luka and his playmaking skills. So he'll get a lot of opportunity for open shots. And if he knocks him down, this will be a longer series than people might anticipate.
Oh yeah. I definitely think that this is a fun one to watch too, for that reason, because you have a younger up and coming duo in Kristaps and Luka. You've got a more established duo in Kawhi and Paul George, but like you mentioned, the Clippers to me haven't been doing as well as I expected, especially even in the restart. And a part of that is because of injuries. They haven't had everybody on the floor together. I think the Clippers, much like the Lakers, their seeding games journey was a lot different than most teams. Those teams that clinched early, the Bucks, another team that we haven't even talked about yet. It wasn't really a matter of trying to get a higher seed or anything. That you're number one or number two in your conference. It's now about being healthy and trying to ease players back to be ready come playoff time. So that's the other thing that will either work in their favor for the Clippers, is the fact they haven't been overplaying players. Doc's been doing a good job with time, managing players, sitting Kawhi and Paul George out when needed, and just really taking this time to get them ready come playoff time. So, the switch is going to be on. Yeah. Like it's going to be a completely different team for the Clippers, for the Lakers, because it's playoff time. Yeah. So I'm interested to see how Luka and Kristaps come into this challenge. But I think either way, regardless what happens, you look at this Dallas team, Seth Curry, you mentioned Tim Hardaway. They just have a lot of young players, Boban, that this is just going to go a long way for them. And the future is bright in the NBA. If nothing else, that's something you have to take away from this entire NBA restart. Looking at Memphis, Dallas, the Suns, the future is very bright for a lot of these teams, and Dallas is definitely one of them.
For Kawhi Leonard, if he's able to pull this off, we are going to be talking about him in historical categories and where he ranks in NBA history, because I'm not sure I don't know if there's ever been a player that's won three titles for three different teams, three different franchises, and got finals MVP for each of those franchises. If he's able to pull this off, we're gonna elevate his spot in NBA history.
Oh yeah. And I feel like he already has. Even last year with his run with Toronto, to me it felt like he was cementing his name in that conversation, because he's a different breed, and because he's a little quirky and quiet and has his weird laugh, and he's not someone that now we see him actually in more commercials and more in the spotlight in that sense, but he hasn't always been that. Even in San Antonio, the claw was quiet. It was like he was giving me TJ Warren, how TJ Warren is now, where a lot of people were still surprised that he was so good. Whereas now you can't question or doubt Kawhi Leonard. And I'm not saying TJ Warren will get to that point. Who knows? But either way, I think right now, if he continues the way he's been playing, absolutely. He's someone else that we a year or 2 years from now could be having a different conversation around. But it's just incredible to see how much these players can really succeed when they're put in the right situation. I mean, you look at Melo, we were talking about in New York versus Melo now. He's older. You think he'd be slowing down. Melo's playing great basketball. Kawhi with the Clippers, with the Raptors even. He was able to get out from Pop and the Spurs, and he's been flourishing. TJ Warren, another one. With the Suns, it's a shame that he was on that team and was not able to drop the numbers he's dropping now. But Victor Oladipo's been easing back, and he's really been stepping into that spot for the Pacers, especially without Sabonis there, that he's been one of the top players in the NBA restart. So I think that's something I love seeing, like those players that their careers kind of go up and down, and they find the right team and the right coach, and it's like a whole different player. So Kawhi would absolutely be moving his name up in the ranks if they win a championship. But I don't think they're winning a championship. So.
And it'll be a big stamp to this season because he's having a career high in points. This has been a career year for him, and if he finishes it off with the ring, it'll be one of the most impressive seasons by a player that we've witnessed, impressive 2-year run by a player that we've ever witnessed. So it's gonna be intriguing. But everybody's clamoring for that matchup with the Lakers. Everybody's hoping each team gets to face each other in the conference finals. Now we look at the East. We talk about this Brooklyn-Toronto matchup, but I really don't want to talk about that because
yeah, I think that's maybe a 5-game series.
Maybe. I mean, congratulations on making the postseason. They got a bright future. When they get everybody's coming back, when KD comes back, we'll see how he looks. If Kyrie Irving can stay healthy, Spencer Dinwiddie, they have a nice group. They have a nice core. And then you got Karis LeVert, who's showing he can score the ball. So they got something to work with, Brooklyn. But Toronto, they just been, they've been playing flawless basketball all season.
Well, the thing about Brooklyn is, and I actually cover the Wizards, so I'm gonna put them kind of in that category. They're not nearly as talented, don't get me wrong. But I think teams like Brooklyn and for the Wizards, this NBA restart and this whole season right now is just about preparing for next year.
Yeah.
Every game they play. Even Karis LeVert, he's been insane right now. But you think about, okay, now let's see how he's going to look with KD and Kyrie. It's a whole different team. You're talking about two of the best players in the league to come back. And now you bring those players in, you bring in the experience these guys are getting to play a top Toronto team in the playoffs without them is going to go such a long way that for some of these teams, in my opinion, yeah, you want to win every game you can, don't get me wrong. But I think they're playing for something bigger, and I know people are talking about the Wizards as well, but in a bad way. But, same thing with them, Bradley Beal, John Wall, these teams that are missing big key players right now, their focus is going to be a little different. You have to keep in mind, these aren't role players. Like Avery Bradley missing for the Lakers is a loss. Don't get me wrong. Rajon Rondo being injured is a loss. Hopefully he gets back. But you're not talking about the top players in the league like Brooklyn is talking about without having KD and Kyrie. Those two back alone, this is a team that's going to be a year from now, health aside, if they're able to get back completely and be 100%, of course, in the running to be a top team in the East.
Yeah.
So you're going from, bottom of the East, fighting for a 7-8 seed to now being a top team in the East, competing for an Eastern Conference championship. This team is dangerous. And watching how they've been playing in the restart, it's honestly scary to think about because a lot of people didn't expect them to do anything in the bubble. Yet here they are, and they've been playing some really good basketball. Karis LeVert's been leading the charge, but I think we're going to be talking a different tune a year from now for sure.
The talent is definitely there, and there's some guys that are going to be intriguing for next year's roster. I forget, I can't even pronounce his last name, but I think he was like number 9, and he was knocking down all those threes against the Blazers. I can't pronounce his last name. Cabaret. I think that's. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, but.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Timothy. Cabarro.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah,
But that's the thing. You don't even know how to say these players' names, and here they are. He finished with like 20 points. I think almost 19 points. It is. Tyler Johnson, Joe Harris, Jared Allen, Garrett Temple, of course, Karis LeVert. They have players that are very good without KD and Kyrie. It's just going to be insane to watch how they just completely level up next year.
Yeah, they definitely have the pieces into and building a championship team. But speaking of teams, I think this might be the end of the Sixers if they get bounced in this first round. I think we're going to see a wholesale change. I'm biased actually, so I have the Celtics winning this in 5 games, but for the Sixers, looking at the Sixers, we might see a whole lot of change happening if they don't make a run at the finals. We're gonna see. I said the coach is probably gonna be gone. NBA executives, they do weird things, so we might look at Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid being separated, which I don't understand why you ever want to trade two All-Stars, but this is going to be it for the Sixers because they've been underachievers the past few years, especially last year they underachieved, and then this season how they were underachieving during the regular season. So for them, it's like this is gonna be a interesting time for the Sixers.
This is it. This is it. I mean, honestly, I think regardless what happens, and I was just having the same conversation on my show, I think regardless what happens with the Sixers, they are going to have to make a move with Brett Brown because he's been there for 7 years now. It's time for a new voice. It's just time for a new direction for the team. They have not been performing as high as they should. For them to be a 6 seed and to still be trying to figure out how Joel and Ben can play together is not okay. I could see the first year, when they lost to the Celtics a couple years ago, that made sense to me. Okay, they were young, they didn't have that playoff experience, they were still on the other end of the process and still figuring it out, moving up as an Eastern Conference contender. But now here we are a couple of years later, and we're still having these same conversations. The focus is still on Ben Simmons being a threat from the perimeter, Ben and Joel being able to play on the court together. The team figuring out, they bring in Al Horford. They've got Shake Milton. Tobias Harris comes in. Obviously Jimmy Butler came in and left. But they have had so much talent. Why are they not a better team in the East? So I think it's time for a change. I do think that with Ben Simmons being injured, it just kind of solidifies, in my opinion, he's the leader of this team, not Joel Embiid. I think he just plays much more consistent. He's a true team player, humble, works hard, just does what he's supposed to do day in and day out. Joel Embiid is inconsistent, and he gets injured easily. You can't rely on him for that reason. So the conversation around the future of those two as well is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Because if I'm in Elton Brand and I'm involved in this decision making, it's not Ben Simmons that I'm moving. So there's got to be some changes in the front office in terms of coaches, and there's got to be some changes in terms of who's going to be leading this team forward on the floor too. So I think this is it. I think the Celtics win this, and I'll say maybe 6, but it could be 5.
It could, yeah. When I look at the team like the Sixers, I always revert back to the coaching because it's not like Simmons and Embiid don't get along. They seem to get along very well. They like playing with each other. Simmons is a willing passer. There's nothing a big man likes more than a guy who's willing passer. And when you're 6'10", 6'11", and could able to pass and defend, there shouldn't be all these issues with two guys with that much talent. So I'm always looking back at the coaching, but you're right. But they're still under that contract. They still got Joel Embiid under that contract. So moving him is going to be an issue. And when it's tough to move a player, it's time for the coach to go. So that's the route we're looking at. And the Celtics, they've really, I'm not surprised at their success this season. A lot of people seem to be surprised at their success. What I'm also surprised is how Jaylen Brown has been playing. He's been the guy. His game took another step in the right direction this year. Last year kind of went back with all the things happening, but this year he's more aggressive. He's going to the lane a lot more. He's getting to the foul line more. His 3-point percentage has increased. He's just making smarter basketball decisions. And that's one thing I've criticized him. His decision making was not that great the first couple of years, but this year he's actually matured and he's making better decisions.
Yeah, and I think someone like Jaylen Brown, much like Jason Tatum, they have been such a pivotal part of this team from the beginning. From as a young player, they've taken their lumps, they've learned, they've been in moments that really taught them. And I think that we are seeing them that now translate over into the way that they're playing, that confidence and just having the ability to take this team to new heights. Kemba Walker coming in was a great addition. I do think that he fits in so much better with Kyrie than Kyrie did with the Celtics. And, of course, having Gordon Hayward, and they just have Marcus Smart. You look at their roster, this is the team that I actually have coming out of the East because I just think they're so well coached with Brad Stevens, and they play so hard. They play together. They have depth. They have versatility. They've got size. I think they check a lot of boxes. So I see them being a team that can honestly come out of the East because they just know how to – Brad Stevens is gonna have them matching up with everyone. Them and Toronto are two teams that are what I call a well-oiled machine. They're just like so systematic, on the same page, so organized. But I do think that the Celtics will have the opportunity to come out of the East. That's just my thought. I've been saying it since like January,
And
and
I'm
I'm
with
sticking
you.
by it.
I'm
But
with
this,
you.
to me, this team is trouble. I don't think enough people really fully appreciate and respect the talent that the Celtics have. But this is, to me, an NBA Finals contender.
And one thing they have that not many teams have is they got four guys that can give you 20 points.
Right.
And then you got another
Who do
guy
you
that
lock
comes
in
off,
on?
and you got a guy that comes off the bench like Marcus Smart, who's improved his 3-point shooting a whole lot. He can give you 15 to 18 points coming off the bench. Just the opportunities that he gets. He doesn't shoot a lot. He just takes whatever the defense gives him or whatever they call. But this is the type of team that Coach Brad Stevens can coach. He's like guys that are like B-level players, but you could get them to play A-level you could get them to play A-level. So that was the issue with last year's team. You got an alpha personality. Stevens can't really deal with that. So I like the Celtics. I got them. I'm biased, so I got them coming out. But a team that we also be watching out for is the Miami Heat. They possess a problem for the Bucks because they've given the Bucks issues all season long, and just because they don't need a double team Giannis, Bam can just guard him by himself, and Bam we've seen has been a great defender.
Another team that I just feel like not enough people have put respect on their name. I think they're sitting at number 4. They shouldn't be a team that anyone is surprised by the run that they're going to make, but they will be because Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, just still players that I don't know if it's that we don't see them play enough in Miami. I don't know what it is that people just can't really wrap their heads around them, and they just completely write them off and don't have them as a team that can come out. But I do think, like you're saying, with Eric Spoelstra, a championship coach, with having Bam, his size, his mobility, his versatility, the way he's scoring, the way Jimmy Butler is playing, this team is something else. And honestly, come playoff time, I think they're going to have what it takes. I think the Pacers Heat series is going to be another one I'm excited to watch, by the way. That growing rivalry, the way they got into it in the regular season back in January, the Jimmy Butler, TJ Warren growing feud and beef, I guess you could call it. I'm excited for that series for that reason alone. Like, it's going to be a fight. It's going to be fun to watch. But talent-wise, I think the Heat really have all the pieces. Come playoff time, one of the biggest difference is having depth and having a coach. And some of these teams, honestly, we've seen them do so well because they have someone like Brad Stevens for the Celtics, Eric Spoelstra, Nick Nurse, a great coach with Toronto. No knock on the Bucks, but I just think that they're easier to match up with. And I don't see them being a top team coming out of the East. I think that the Heat matches up with them really well. I think Toronto and the Celtics definitely have them figured out. And I honestly could see it being, I still say the Celtics, and I'm on your show, so why not also stick with that? But all jokes aside, I do think that the Heat and the Celtics are going to be fun teams to watch. And the Raptors are just out to prove.
Is Oladipo going to be playing in this postseason?
He is supposed to, but he's still not 100%. So, I mean, but him out there at like 60, 70% is better than him not being out there at all. It's just that he's still not 100%. So I think the Pacers are about a year out of truly having a strong run in the postseason. I think this experience, much like some of the other teams we were talking about, like Dallas, this experience is going to go a long way for them. To now see TJ Warren, I mean, they're playing some incredible basketball. I just think that they're a team that once they get back Victor Oladipo 100%, Nate McMillan's got them rolling. And so I think next year is going to be their year come postseason time.
And they're also missing a key piece in Sabonis. He was a big double guy, all-star. That's a key loss for them. And he could have possessed issues. He could have gave the Heat issues because I don't think the Heat had anybody that can guard them. This is also going to be a big postseason for Jimmy Butler because a lot of people have criticized his leadership skills. So the way he's handled himself this year, the way he's played for this team, this is a big postseason for him.
Oh yeah, he's out to prove something. And there's nothing worse and more intimidating, in my opinion, than a player that has all the talent but now has their back up against the wall and is out to prove that. Put some respect on my name. I am who I am. Like, I am a much better player than you think I am. And I think Jimmy Butler definitely has that, even coming from Philly and now I'm playing with the Heat. I think he's really out to show your loss. You all passed up on me. You all missed out or didn't respect me as the talent that I am. And I'm going to show you just exactly what I could do. Like, watch me work. So I think that the Heat are going to be a team that's, for that reason, is going to be someone that you got to keep an eye on this postseason.
Yeah, and lastly, the team that a lot of people think will be going to the finals, representing the East, is the Milwaukee Bucks. They had another crazy season, another historic season. Giannis. The only question is, will he be unanimous MVP or not? The season he put up, I think he put only other person to put up 29 and 13 was like Wilt or something like that. 29, 13 and 6 assists, I think was Wilt. So they're going to be a problem, but they're in the bubble, and that home court in Milwaukee was one of the biggest advantages that they had going into the season. So now that they don't have that home court advantage, I don't know. They still got some issues to deal. They still haven't figured out the stuff that hindered them from making it to the finals last year. I think it's going to be the same things that's going to hinder them from making it to the finals this year, which is Giannis knocking down open shots. Will Chris Middleton step up? Who else is going to step up in the key moments, because they didn't have nobody do that last postseason?
I think that's exactly it. I think the Bucks are still one or two players out. I think they have all the capabilities to literally do the exact same thing we saw them do last year. And that is be a top team in the regular season, get to the playoffs, and underachieve. You know, Chris Middleton and Giannis are doing a great job leading this group, but I mean, who's the next player? Brooke Lopez does well, Eric Bledsoe, DJ Wilson. I just don't really know who is going to be that number 3. And I still don't think that they have the depth to hang with these teams come playoff time. Again, there are certain teams that I think are built for just winning one game. And then there are certain teams that I think are built for winning a best of 7. When you're talking playoff time, it's a whole different beast. And it's not enough to just be able to beat that team one time. So I think like the Bucks, okay, you might be better for one game, but are you going to be better than the Raptors, the Celtics, or the Heat best of 7? No, I don't. I think they're still missing some pieces. And I saw them, especially in the seeding games, they just seem so beatable. And I even posted that on Twitter. I was like, there's nothing invincible about this group. Like there are some teams that there's something like a LeBron factor, or even the Clippers having so much talent that just makes them almost unbeatable to the point that it's like scary to play them. The Bucks to me are a team. If you have to play a top seeded team, if you have to be the underdog going into a series, you want to play the Bucks because they're so beatable. They're so predictable and easier to match up with. And I just don't think Giannis is still at that point where he can fully take over games like he should, or like they would need him to be in order for them to come out of the East. So I still don't I agree with you. I think we're going to get the same exact result from the Bucks this year as we saw them do last year.
Yeah, because when it comes down in the fourth quarter, during crunch time, the last 3-4 minutes, that whole running, just trying to go through people, dunk on everybody, it normally does not happen during that time in the fourth quarter. You have to find other ways to score. You have to make some jump shots. You have to create for others. You have to rely on teammates to make open jump shots. And what we've seen with Giannis is the jump shot is not there yet. It's not there. It's I'm putting my head down and going to the rim. Yeah, better, but it's not there that you have to, go play up and close defense on him. You can still back up on him. So he's got a lot of improvements. So I got them and the Celtics going in the East Finals, but it might just be 6 games. I don't think. I don't think it'll last 7 games. So you have the Celtics and the Lakers going in the finals.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that'll be very, very, very intriguing. That would be great for the NBA if the bubble caps off with the Celtics Lakers matchup.
Thank you.
That would be ratings will be through the roof.
It's been years since we had a Celtics-Lakers final. I mean, the Lakers is the other part that a lot of people keep forgetting now. There are a lot of people playing for Kobe, but the Lakers are really playing for Kobe. I think that that's going to be something that we're going to see this season when we look back on just how special it is. I think it's going to be a big part of it. I do think that is like their underlying motivating factor right now, is to do it for Kobe. So I think it's going to be a Celtics-Lakers final because we haven't had that in years. It's time to get back to that Boston-LA rivalry in the championship, and then I think the Lakers are going to win it.
And how many games you got that?
If it's Boston-LA, I think I will go 6 or 7 for sure. I don't know. There's no reason it would be less than that unless something very dramatic happens between now and then.
Yeah. I got Celtics Clippers in the finals. I think the Celtics gonna take it, but I've been wrong before. So, well, I hope I'm not wrong this time. I'm really, the Celtics need to win one. It's been 12 years since we had a championship from them.
2008.
Yeah,
Forget
that's
that.
yeah,
With the
yeah,
big three. I was a Celtics fan then.
yeah.
I was rooting for them then.
That was great times. All right, lastly, before we get up out of here, just some quick NFL news. First, this big news coming out of Washington. They hired the first African American president of the team. What is his name? Jason Wright. They hired him. He will be the team's president. They made that announcement today. You know, it seems like they are trying to go take a step in the right direction and trying to change the franchise. They're trying to do a wholesale change for the franchise, and Lord knows they need it.
Lord knows they need it. Yes. I think that Mr. Wright, he's Mr. Wright. I like that. But no, the hiring of Jason Wright as the first ever Black president in NFL history is just so monumental. And I think the timing of it is perfect. There's been a lot of civil justice and social injustice going on and unrest in our country. So it's time to start breaking down some barriers, and it's great to see the first. Now, I think that Washington, as you mentioned, they have been doing a really good job of just being more proactive in the community. I've been seeing different initiatives that they've created for diversity and helping to give back in the community. So off the field, I think Washington is doing a good job. I would love to see them get a name, though, and I don't think we're going to see one this year. Seems like they're going to stick with just Washington football team for the year and maybe focus on that next year. There are more pressing matters, like the fact that there was a number of sexual harassment allegations that came out and things like that. So I'm fine with them putting the name on the back burner to focus on the more pressing issues because that's a needed change. But they're changing the culture. They're changing the environment. Bringing in Mr. Wright will definitely allow for that change too. And I don't know what we're going to see from them on the football field, but at least they've done something right with bringing in Jason Wright to lead them as the president. And hopefully this franchise will now take a much needed change in the right direction to be more competitive and to be a team that's seen in the right spotlight instead of always in the news for something bad like they've been over the last couple of years.
And for instance, the whole situation with Darius Geis where they had to cut him for domestic violence. So so this is kind of a good thing just to kind of, overshadow what just happened. What was that, like last week or the week before? So yeah, we'll see what happens with them. But, I'm a big proponent, and the owner is the person that, Daniel Snyder he's like Jim Dolan. He's just there to mess things up. He does not want to do the right thing. And instead of taking a back seat and letting other people do the job, he wants to, chime in. And that's until he realizes he just needs to step back, write the checks, and don't say nothing or do nothing, he'll be all right. But, some of these owners, they want more credit than they deserve. All right?
Well, these issues are definitely a product of their environment. It's like kids, you can't expect kids to grow up in a household under their parents and not go out and emulate what they've seen from their parents. It's the same thing. The environment that's created starts at the top. And that's where they have been needing to make some change because it has just been one thing after the other. It's like they're trying to outdo their previous issues. Just too much. It's time to make a whole change. The name, the people in charge, everything, and starting with Jason Wright, it's a good change in the right direction.
All right, and then and this is some humorous. The Seattle Seahawks.
I knew it.
They cut undrafted rookie Kama Severand because he decided he wanted to sneak a young lady into the team hotel as she was wearing a Seattle Seahawks jersey, disguising herself as a player. And the only thing I had to say to this was you had to be a casualty of WAP to do this because my goodness.
I don't know if I could say WAP, but you said it first. So, just some dumbness. The stupidity of that, you get cut because of some WAP. You are a professional athlete. You can get whatever woman you want, potentially, maybe not. You have a lot of women that are interested in you, but because you can't have them right now, and you actually have to, I don't know, because of a pandemic, stay away for now, You can't do it. You're trying to sneak, and the it's just like humorous. It doesn't feel real. They tried to sneak her in. He tried to sneak her in as a player. Come on. Does it get any worse? Like, I would rather it be you tried to like have her climb into your window, like old school style ladder. You get a ladder and climb in. You actually went out of your way to plan this and they thought this was a good idea. Oh, you know what? I'm going to get you some of my teammates here, and we're going to sneak you in as a player. Like, I don't know what makes it. If this was just an impulsive, I don't know, you're drinking, you're like, oh, let me sneak you in type thing. Or maybe they were drinking. I don't know. Maybe. But you actually sat down and came up with this plan, knowing that you should not be sneaking her in, that this was going to be the way to work around the rules. It's just, you deserve to be cut. Like, you literally sat, the two of these geniuses agreed on this. She agreed to, there's no way I'm ever dressing up as a player to sneak in. Like, I'm going to flip it on the other side too. He's doing this. He just got his whole career messed up around WAP. She's really that desperate because he's a football player to sneak in there because she wants to get her golden ticket by bagging an NFL player that she actually lowered her dignity to dress as an NFL player. It's not even worth all that. And then pictures came out of her, and now people are roasting what she looks like because she's this basic Jane. It is just one thing after the other with this story, and he doesn't deserve to be in the NFL ever because the stupidity. Just bye, get out.
If they were actually smart and used their brain, they would have disguised her as a hotel employee.
That would have made more sense.
Get her some maybe the housekeeping attire. Pay off one of the housekeeping folks to let you get the attire. Get the attire to her. Then she could sneak in as housekeeping or something. But as one of the
I would just love to see pictures. I would love to see what they went with as the players look. Was she wearing a helmet? Was she wearing like a full like what even is football gear? Like, did they ever in like a fitted hat and Seahawks gear, like practice gear? First of all, a female does not even look like a football player. Yeah. Maybe she does. I don't know.
Did she have shoulder pads on or anything?
Right.
I don't know. What is the craziest that somebody has ever tried to get you to come over? What's the
Never nothing like that. Because I no. Nope. You are not. I am not doing all. Now this is what reminds me of like when you were in high school and your parents gave you like a curfew and you were sneaking out, but like you're grown adults and you need the WAP that bad. That's where I dropped. As an adult, I don't even think I have anything that comes close to any of that.
They do anything for WAP. They do anything for WAP. Wow, man. On that note, we are Renee, please tell the people where they can find you. Tell them where they can find your shows, plug your social media and all that.
Yes. You can follow me. I'm on all social media, on Twitter at Renee P. Wash, on Facebook and Instagram at Renee P. Washington. You can check out my Wizard show, Locked on Wizards. I've got a Fox Sports podcast, Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington, and we're just pumping out content left and right. But thank you so much for having me on, and I'm glad we got to finish talking about WAP and the foolishness in Seattle, but I appreciate you letting me join you to break down the NBA playoffs and more serious news in that sense versus the foolishness going on in Seattle.
Yeah, we didn't even get to the NBA about the NBA letting people have +1s and all that.
They did make a rule. You can't know them through social media. You have to prove your established relationship, which in itself is sad that you even have to make that a rule and put that out there. But that's the world we're living in.
They are really underestimating the level in which people will go to get what they want. And we'll leave it at that. You guys have been watching another edition of +1 interview. That's Renee Washington. Make sure you follow her social media and all that. Also, disclaimer, we're recording this on a Monday. So this is a Monday when we were talking about the Nuggets game. It's a Monday. And that game is tied at 111 right now. 113 right now. So have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Renee, thanks once again.